People often ask me what is a good lens to buy as an alternative to the kit lens, so I've been doing some research to find out what is the best selling lens and what makes it so popular. Want to find out more? Stick around. Welcome to the Photogenius channel. Over the past few days, I've been taking photos exclusively with this Canon DSLR camera and just one lens. This lens is regarded by many as being the most popular lens in the world. What is it? It's the 50mm prime lens, often known as the Nifty 50. And in this video, I want to share with you some of the images that I've captured and talk about the reasons why this is such a great lens and may be worth considering if you're thinking of adding another lens to your kit. Hi, I'm Paul from Photogenius. Welcome to my channel where I post regular photography tutorials designed to help you get more from your digital camera. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. So if you've been watching my channel for a while, there's a good chance that you've already seen videos where I feature this lens, but I thought it was time for an update. Plus it was a good excuse to get out, take some photos and show you just what this lens can do. Now, of course, in this video, I've chosen to use a Canon camera, but you'll be pleased to know that Nikon, Sony, Olympus, Panasonic, and others all make versions of the Nifty 50. So no matter what you use, you should be able to find a lens to suit your camera and budget. So every lens has a focal length, and this is a measurement in millimeters, usually written on the top or the side of the lens. This measurement is very important because it dictates what the lens can see and capture, and we call this the field of view. Now, what makes a 50mm focal length very popular is that on a full frame camera, a 50mm lens gives a very natural perspective, very close to what the human eye sees. Now, the Nifty 50 is also what we call a prime lens, and a prime lens is a lens that has a fixed focal length. In other words, you cannot zoom with this lens. It's fixed at 50mm. So what you do is, if you want to get closer to your subject, you use your feet, you get closer. If you want a wider view, you walk backwards. Now, it's fair to say that for some, this lack of zoom may seem a bit restricting at first, but what this lens lacks in zoom, it more than makes up for in terms of aperture. The widest aperture on this particular model is f1.8, and that is significantly wide and comes with some advantages. Now, if you're not up on your f numbers, let me explain. Aperture is an opening in the lens that you can adjust. This allows you to control how much light can pass through the lens, which in turn will affect how bright or dark your images are. Each aperture position is shown as an F number on the LCD screen, and this is where it can get confusing because a large F number means a small aperture, and a smaller F number of course means a larger aperture. Prime lenses generally have a larger, wider aperture than you will find in a zoom lens. Remember, that's a small F number. So you may be thinking, what can a wide aperture do for my photography? Well, the larger the aperture, the more light you can capture. So a lens with a wider aperture is going to be great when shooting in low light, and may be a good alternative to using a tripod or increasing the camera's ISO, which will affect image quality. For most, however, the biggest advantage when using a lens with a wide aperture is blur in backgrounds and foregrounds. We call this a shallow depth of field, and it is a very popular technique. Compare these images side by side and you can clearly see how the prime excels. So a couple of days ago I took the morning off to go and visit the World Press photo exhibition that's on show here in Brisbane, and of course I took along my Canon camera and the Nifty 50. Decommissioned in 1971 but redeveloped as a space for arts and culture, the Powerhouse regularly hosts photography exhibitions and is a great venue to walk around and take photos, with heaps of interesting architecture, arts and graffiti. Despite some of the spaces in the Powerhouse being fairly dark, as I mentioned a few moments ago with the Nifty 50, this isn't much of a problem because I can take advantage of the wide aperture. This is a better alternative to increasing ISO and getting grainy images. I was particularly happy with this candid shot of a lady enjoying the photography exhibition. Outside, of course, the light was much better. Exploring the grounds, there's a number of artworks, including these signs by Australian artist Richard Tipping, and these figures in the adjacent park, once again using the aperture wide at f1.8 to blur away any background distractions. Now, I'm not usually one to photograph my food, but having lunch at my favourite burger restaurant, I couldn't resist grabbing these shots. And here you can see where the lens really shines. The shallow depth of field makes the subject really stand out. I love the colours, tones, and I have to say the burger was amazing. The next day I had a meeting in a part of the city called Fortitude Valley. Once done, I decided to explore some of the streets and laneways. This artwork I really love, but sadly the time of day and really harsh light made it impossible to get a really good image. During my courses and workshops, I often encourage my students to slow down, look up and down and explore the world beyond eye level. As an example, this tiny artwork could have easily been missed, so I'm using live view on the LCD screen to help me compose the shot and get the image I want. Now for street photography, I would typically use a wider lens than the 50mm. Here I couldn't get as much of this artwork in my frame as I would have liked, but the crop I settled on still looks great and the colours really pop. The Nifty 50 I'm using is really compact and light, making it a great lens to walk around with and capture candid shots. This one was taken with the camera at my hip. The original image, as you can see, was a bit crooked and needed a crop to straighten it up and improve the composition. Finally, walking back to the car, I passed once again the artwork of the guy leaning on the signpost. As you can see, the light was still harsh, but the shadow was now gone, and I was able to get the shot I originally wanted. So the Nifty 50 has a focal length that gives a natural perspective and a wide aperture that means we can blur backgrounds, plus the lens performs really well in low light because the larger aperture lets more light in. Could there possibly be any more reasons why the Nifty 50 is such a popular lens? Well, yes, actually, the cost. Now I would recommend looking at the f1.8 aperture versions of the Nifty 50, with Canon's version almost certainly being one of the best in terms of value for money at around $130 US. But of course there are plenty of other versions to suit a variety of different camera types. And if you crave an even wider aperture, then I'm afraid you're going to have to dig deeper into your pockets, as generally when it comes to lenses, the lower the f number, the more expensive the lens. So if you're thinking of picking up a Nifty 50, I've included some of the best deals and also included links which you will find below this video. So if you are thinking of adding a new lens to your kit that will not just help you blur backgrounds but also perform really well in low light, then I think the Nifty 50 is certainly worth taking a look at. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider giving it a thumbs up. It helps the videos get noticed and that helps my channel grow. So you don't miss out on future videos, please consider also subscribing, and I hope to see you again sometime soon. Thanks for watching. See ya. Bye.